Right. So I'd love to talk about sustainability and about net zero. So I've been living in Europe, in the UK for just over 20 years. And I'm very proud that Europe is leading the way on sustainability, ESG, net zero. In the US, it's called green IT. And apropos maturity of verticals that we discussed throughout this conversation, Nimi, these exact verticals, financial services, telcos, and others are openly talking about becoming, at least in Europe, net zero by 2030.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Engatica's interview series. I'm your host Nimilika and we're really glad to have you join us today. And today we have Ayelet Elstein, VP at Lakeside Software on the show. Welcome, Ayelet.
Nice being here. Lovely meeting you, Nimi.
Thanks for joining us today. The Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world. A platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come, be a part of our community, learn, share, and grow with us. So, Ayelet, let me start off by asking you one interesting question. So, innovation, does it mean that we have to get the startup mentality into established firms?
I mean, this is a brilliant question, and I always love talking about innovation. Absolutely. You know what? I think innovation should be part of any form of organization. And especially in organizations that have been around the block for a while, like Lakeside. So we are very much a scale-up, a very solid scale-up, financially, in terms of product, organization, the private equity that supports us. And I feel from my experience with other companies that coming with an innovative mindset, being a bit provocative at times, and being very open and very candid with how I feel or how my team feels or how my region is reacting to dynamics in the company that needs to change. I'm always vocal about it. So innovation is primarily, of course, in the technology aspect, but you very much pointed it correctly that it needs to be a mentality, it needs to be a mindset. And the mindset of innovators is, of course, the forward thinking, being disruptive, and being radical thinkers. But it also means or requires agility. It requires some level of patience as well, because innovators are always ahead of the game. So in order for people to actually accept your ideas, you have to there's this dissonance between very fast pace and being patient for things to sink. It's always these dynamics. And I mean, this is something that I've leveraged in my previous life. Obviously, when I had the title of head of innovation in Amdocs, running it globally, but here as well. And I love to ignite it amongst my team members. It's something that's applicable to sales as well. How can we be innovative in how we approach the customers? How are we more innovative to make the sales cycles more efficient? Value add selling requires innovation. Yes, absolutely.
And you've said that this innovation is a mentality. So have you observed any difficulty in people adapting to this new mentality, or is it easy?
In Lakeside or just in general in life? You mean generally?
Yeah, in general, like you have been working with different companies, so you can talk about Lakeside also.
Yes. So listen, being an innovator is never easy because by the nature of things, the innovator is introducing a paradigm shift, introducing new schools of thoughts,
Right.
new ways of doing things, and more importantly, new viewpoints. So we can look at the same object, at the same pain, at the same aspiration, at the same even employee in the company. Okay, I mean, and the idea of the innovators is that they come from a different viewpoint and introduce new ways of approaching things, and often it requires putting aside what was done so far, even if it's done as such for the past few decades, or it's taking what is being done and reshaping it. And you know, most people don't like change. They're risk averse, they're change averse. Innovators love to live outside their comfort zone.
Correct.
It, you know, I can say about myself, I'd like to think of myself as an innovator, but I love to live outside my comfort zone. I keep moving myself outside my comfort zone. I love change. I relish challenges. So you need to have this endurance as well, and tenacity and persistence. But yes, you know that you always face walls. And you try to break most of these walls, but sometimes you have to live with the fact that some needs to stay there. And they'll fall naturally later, you know?
Yeah. That was so beautifully explained.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question is around the financial sector. So why is the financial sector leading the way in digital employee experience?
It's a good question, you know, and I had a really interesting conversation yesterday as well. I would say that it's financial services, telcos, and also automotives. You know, if you look at these, I would say also e-commerce. So these verticals have needed to reinvent themselves because of the proliferation of the companies in these verticals. So there's a lot of competition in financial services, and this goes quite wide. It's, you know, the retail banking, it's the online banking, wealth management, asset management, fintech, payment, online payment. So the financial service is a very big and large vertical, and it's a crowded space. Telco is the same. You know, you live in India, I live in the UK. Let's just think in our countries, how many telcos can provide to us? A lot, okay?
Yes.
And more or less they're offering the same thing. Often in telcos, they're using the same network infrastructure even. They share network infrastructure. So, and then we go to automotives. And, you know, a car is a car at the end of the day. So you really need to be innovative in how you present this object to the buyer, so they buy an Aston Martin versus, I don't know, a Ferrari, you know, even if it's two different desires for performance of the car. So, and it goes on, of course, to e-commerce. You know, everybody wants to grab our attention and to grab our money in order to generate revenue. So when you're in a vertical that's crowded, that's really the conversion rate needs to be very high to create the scalability of the revenue. There is no other choice but to be innovative, or else you stay behind. And I would say that today, at the forefront of being innovative is combining the customer obsessiveness that we all need to be. So every company today needs to be customer obsessive or customer obsessed. But in order for the customer to really receive the optimum service, you need to start with the employee. You need to start with the service provider within your company. So let's take an example. You mentioned earlier, financial services and telcos. Okay?
Yes.
You call your bank, you call your telco, you chat online with them, you have questions, you have issues. These services, you expect them to be swift, seamless, and efficient, just like when you pick your phone and order an Uber cab, right?
Yes.
Just like when you pick your phone and order Deliveroo or Uber Eats. So this is our experience as consumers, and we expect to get the Amazon service everywhere we go.
Yes.
And this has shifted to these verticals that we just have discussed, and they are mature enough to understand that they need to provide the whole 360 experience, and that means starting with the employee, starting with the good employee digital experience, in order for them to be productive enough to provide a good service to their customers. So this is how I like to present DEX, digital employee experience. So it's not isolated just into internally, how do we ensure that our employee have good digital experience so the company is run more efficiently, the systems deliver what they should, but we're all here for our customers at the end of the day. So this is like, if you want, the 360 loop.
Yeah, and the car example that you mentioned, it's a car at the end of the day, but it depends on how you present it.
Some people probably would not agree with us, but for us, it's a means to get from A to B, right? Yeah.
And it got me thinking, and I guess I'll think about it for the rest of the day. And I guess that will also stay with our audience. And you've touched up on poor employee experience. So does poor employee experience lead to customer losses for a company?
Absolutely. Let's start with this, that when an employee is unhappy for a variety of reasons, and on top of that, his or her digital experience is poor, then this would be really the last straw, and that person is probably at risk and might leave the company. So, and this has always been the case, but I think it has been more augmented during the pandemic and the wave of the Great Resignation. So I would say DEX as a category has been around. I mean, it's quite nascent, but it didn't, it had been in existence before COVID, but COVID has really put it at center stage. And in order for us to, as that's our responsibility as managers, as fellow employees, as people in the company, we want to focus at the employee in order to derive good satisfaction. Good satisfaction derives good camaraderie, and it derives good results for the company, and it derives more efficiency. So from a very selfish viewpoint of the company, when digital employee experience is seamless, and that company that deploys solutions like Systrack in Lakeside or others bring the organization to what we call DEX maturity, the whole company, delivers at a more efficient pace, but it also keeps the employees happy, and as a result, the end customer happy as well. Everything is tied. The whole IT estate today is convoluted. We have a lot of great solutions out there. The top companies have a myriad of an IT stack and IT solutions, and this all needs to be tied seamlessly in the back end in order for EMEA and Ayelet, for example, to have a seamless solution on our endpoint, which is our phone, which we use for work, and on our laptop, or on a virtual desktop that we may be using as well.
Yes, that was beautiful. So now that we've spoken about employee experience, we'll come to the end user experience. So we collect data from end users. And what is its value, and how does it apply for businesses?
That's a great question. So in Lakeside, our patent is, and we are the only ones in the DEX landscape that provide that. We provide an endpoint architecture or edge architecture, which basically means that our SaaS solution, our agent is deployed on the employee's device. So it can be a physical device, like I mentioned earlier, a phone, a smartphone, an iPad, a point of sale, a kiosk that often if you go to even a retail store, you'd have the teller there work on a kiosk. So it's not just a normal computer, but it's what we call point of sale. It can be a laptop or it can be a virtual desktop and or VDI. What happens is that our agent collects in real time. So every 15 seconds, that's pretty much real time, 10,000 data points every 15 seconds.
Wow.
And that basically collects every event that occurs on Nimi's machine, which we call the endpoint. Okay, it stores it is stored on a light database on your computer. So it maximum takes 3 megabytes of your memory. So it's not disruptive at all. And at least once a day, that's the minimum. You can configure it, or companies can configure it to collect data more frequent. Metadata is pulled to our master database, to the cloud. And this is where the raw data from your or my endpoint from our machine is then transformed into insight. So from raw data, it transforms into information and into knowledge. And then you'd get the data scientists, you'd get the heads of digital workplaces, you'd get the head of help desk. So it can be line 1, L1, L2, L3 support. Leverage this wealth of data and insights into pragmatic actions that can solve pertinent issues that are currently happening with various employees on a digital level, or more so, it can actually prevent technical issues from happening, because the beauty of the wealth of the data we have is that we can actually dissect and identify and distill outliers that can actually indicate propensity for an issue to occur. And then we are providing through our solution to the technology people, for example, in Engatica, to go and address that issue by themselves, or to leverage self-healing, which means that it will allow our system to talk to your system to fix automatically the issue before it balloons. Okay?
Yeah.
And so we're very strong in what I've just described with transforming raw data into information and knowledge, which derive insights and call to action, and preventing issues to occur, and providing predictive maintenance, plus quite deep and in-depth root cause analysis, which none of our competitors provide, and we're quite proud of it, in fact. And this all ties in to AI ops, and we're going back to the mature companies or the mature verticals that you very rightly pointed to earlier, financial services, and then we've added telcos, we've added automotive, e-commerce. So these verticals and the mature companies in these verticals are all talking zero touch. Everybody wants to be zero touch today. Employ RPA, robotic process analytics, deploy robotics in general. And so there's no zero touch yet as such. AI is not that mature. Even the deep learning today is not that mature, but we're getting there in the speed of light. But we can contribute quite significantly to the life cycle of becoming zero touch. And a big chunk of it is AI ops, which creates operational efficiency leveraging AI.
The whole process is so streamlined, right from getting the data and then getting some analytics out of it. Very well streamlined.
Yes, and acting upon it. And acting upon it, because often you do need the specialist, you do need the human intervention. And AI augments the human action. You know, apropos innovation, we have a lot of conversations around our dinner table at home here, or in different panels and conversations. This whole notion of AI eventually, or robots replacing humans, I don't believe in that. I actually believe that robotics and AI will allow Mimi to do the more interesting part of her work. So AI takes off your table the mundane, boring tasks. Who wants to do these tasks? No one, right? So it will allow you more time to really deep dive into the interesting part of your work, will allow you to sit and think. You'll have more time. Thinking time is very important. I'm a true believer in that. I often tell my team members, when you feel that you're just overwhelmed, just leave everything, go out for a walk for an hour. There's a lot of merit in doing that. Thinking is crucial. You need time to think. When you stress, you don't think properly, correct? So, and it will allow us more free time if you want, as employees and as workers and as producers, but it also allows us to deep dive into the more efficient aspect of our roles. And as a result, we'll be more productive, working hand in hand with AI or machine learning.
Yeah, I truly believe in that too. And before we end our conversation, are there any other sound bites you would like to share with our audience?
Yes, great. So I'd love to talk about sustainability and about net zero. So I've been living in Europe, in the UK for just over 20 years. And I'm very proud that Europe is leading the way on sustainability, ESG, net zero. In the US, it's called green IT. And apropos maturity of verticals that we discussed throughout this conversation, Mimi, these exact vertical financial services, telcos, and others are openly talking about becoming, at least in Europe, net zero by 2030. And what that means, it means that they need to prove to their stakeholders and to their investors that they are applying and deploying steps and policies to minimize to zero by 2030 the fossil fuel footprint and the carbon footprint. But they also need to prove, again, to that chain of command, to the stakeholders, that the vendors they buy from are also net zero and have high sustainability ratings. Okay. Yeah. And what we provide in Lakeside through Systrack, in that huge wealth of data that we gather extremely relevant information to do with hardware, to do with energy, electricity consumption, that can really help customers of ours to leverage that data in order to generate policies and self-automation, and also the automation process that I mentioned earlier, to minimize, to sweat hardware assets, but minimize their own carbon footprint. And this is something we're very proud of, and more customers in UK and also in the Middle East have been leveraging Systrack for. And that's really the beauty of our data. It's our biggest USP, unique selling proposition. And we're expanding even further the access to it so that our customers can do even more wonderful and innovative, leverage it for more innovative use cases.
Yes. Very wonderful. That's so good. Thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts with us. For more content, subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders from around the globe. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you with a new expert soon.